Thank you for coming to meet the candidates this year on this beautiful day where you could be outside doing yard work. We appreciate your interest. I'd like to introduce the candidates that we have running this year: Bill Becker, George Drogas, Mark Costco, and Laura Pratt. Thank you very much for running. Would like to submit a question for today's session. There's some paper in the basket over there, or right by the basket. If you could write it down like now, and we'll get it back to the people in the corner. And the nominating committee has come up with 8 confidential questions that we're going to ask everybody. You get 2 minutes. Each candidate gets 2 minutes to answer the question, and we're going to go. Everybody is going to get a chance to go first. So answering the question. So, but we will get to member questions after those questions are answered. We want to limit the time today to 2 hours. So that will determine how many of the owner questions that we'll be able to present today. The questions that don't get presented today will include in the Ask the Candidates email blog that we're starting up after this event. So if your question doesn't get answered today, don't worry, we'll get to it. Okay, so I'd also like to give a big thank you to the nominating committee. This group end of last summer, and we've been meeting monthly, and our fearless leader is Mike York, who is the moderator today. Thank you all for all of your work. We also have Bill Burrell and Joanne Blackmore in the back, and they're sifting through questions. And then we have, who are not here today, Tom Sheehan and Cindy Zophi are our other members. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate everything that you've done. Next order of business is we want to draw candidates' names from this little basket to determine the order that your names will appear on the ballot. So Mike, do you want to do that?
Sure.
George Drogas. Mark Costco. Bill Becker, and then let's make sure this is Laura. Yep,
Not
it's
Laura.
Okay, so we've got George, Mark, Bill, and Laura. That's the order in which they'll appear. We also have members on Facebook Live and Zoom. So if anyone is submitting questions within the next few minutes, Joanne and Bill will be getting those into the queue. I think that's all I have to say, and I will turn things over to our moderator, Mike York.
Thank you, Barb. So welcome, audience. Glad you're here. And welcome all the Zoomers who might be over there. And welcome to the candidates. So as Barb said, we've got 8 questions for you. Bill, we'll start with you. Question number 1. Then George, you get an opportunity to answer that same question. Mark, you'll get the same question. Laura, you get the same question. And question number 2, George, we'll start with you. Mark, you'll be next. Laura, you'll be third, and we'll finish with Bill. And we'll keep going in that sequence so that everybody gets to take a turn to be the first to answer a question. Okay. If you'd like me to repeat the question, I'm happy to do that. And as Barb said, you get 2 minutes to give an answer. If you don't take all 2 minutes, that's fine. Questions on that?
No.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
All right. All right, then question number 1. Bill, you'll start. What is your view of the 2 major capital projects facing the association? The contract dredging project and the flood mitigation project that involves the dam and the spillway.
Well, they're both necessary projects. First off, is the probably the flood mitigation is little bit of a higher priority, I think. We've got to protect, you know, people's properties. We've got to protect the association's properties. Last time with those big significant rainfalls, we had a lot of damage to personal property with boats and the yards, docks washed out of place. We had significant damage in the marina. And that we need to put things in place so that doesn't reoccur, or at least minimize the reoccurrence of it so that it very rarely happens. Flood dredging is important to maintain the health of the lake. We want to maintain it so that, you know, people up at the north end can enjoy their lots with, you know, enough water there, and some of the other back bays, you know, will fill in with silt and stuff, and they need to be cleaned out. And but along with that, we need a plan that how do we keep silt from getting into the lake? You know, how do we minimize that? And so that we don't have to do the amount of dredging that you know, occurs maybe every 10 years or whatever it may be. There's a lot of cost with that. And
20 seconds.
that,
Okay, you're done.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I didn't put you on. When you answer, if there's a microphone in front of you, if you want to hit the
Oh,
push, the button that says push, and then you get the green light, and then when you're done, just hit push again.
okay. Thank you, Bill. George, on to you. Same question.
Well, with the years I have up here, and by the way, I want to thank everybody for attending today. It's really nice to see people take an interest in their association here. But the flood mitigation program is definitely a must. We have to ensure that the spillway, that the earthen dam doesn't cave in. And that's by keeping the lake level at a fairly steady level area without it going up too high to breach the earthen dam. And the dredging in my book is a sore subject because we have a dredge that does not work every day. And the bays have the pipes laying in it for months on end. And we have to get this done professionally, get it out of the dredges out of the water and let everybody enjoy the lake. But it has to get done properly. The biggest thing I have to say about that. That's it.
Okay, thank you, George. Mark, on to you.
Yes, thank you, Mike. And as George said, thank you to the audience for your attendance today. Mike, could you repeat the question?
Certainly.
Briefly, please.
What is your view on two of the major capital projects facing the association? The contract dredging project and the flood mitigation project that involves the dam and spillway.
Okay, thank you, Mike. As Bill and George both said, I agree with the points that they made regarding the need for that. I think those are important items that the lake has to take care of. The association has to take care of. The dredging is important to the health of the lake. If we're not able to do it, we have the equipment, the dredger. If we're not able to do it ourselves, then I think contract dredging makes sense for that. It does come with the cost, of course, but what is the cost versus the cost of doing it versus not doing it? And how is that going to impact us, the amenity and the lake itself in terms of the health of the lake? The flood mitigation project is very important also. If you've been up here long enough, you know over the last 10, 12 years, we've had some 100 and 500 year rains. And that has done damage to the lake, the marina, the shoreline. It's contributed to shoreline erosion and whatnot. And those are important things that we need to do to take care of the lake. The health of the lake is very important to us. And that's all I would have.
Thank you, Mark. Laura.
And of course, as everyone else has indicated, you know, the health of the lake is the most important thing. We're a community built around this lake, and we have to take care of it. And dredging is one of the projects that we need to do to help maintain that. and of course, the flood mitigation. And both of those have been addressed by the current board and past boards members as well. And things are well underway now with surveys, and the current board is already addressing a lot of these issues, and I support them fully. Anything we can do to keep the lake healthy and sustain it for us and for the future, I think it's important.
Thank you, Laura. All right, that's question number one. Now we're ready to move to question number two. And this time, George will start with you, and Bill will conclude with you with question number two. So question number two, George. What ideas do you have to keep the annual assessment increase to a minimum in the face of rising labor costs and increased cost of goods?
Well, let me start out by saying this. We have to be very frugal with the money that we spend here. And we have to make sure we get a dollar's worth of work done for every dollar we pay out. I understand that there's waste in every business, but because this is an association and we support ourselves, we have to come up and make sure that we can get the most done for our dollar. And that is about all we have to do. And by getting more people involved in the board members, in the board meetings, and that, I'm sure we can get a handle on that. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Mark, your turn.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, this is a difficult question. As you pointed out, with rising labor rates, inflation is hitting everybody hard now. The cost of gasoline has gotten outrageous in the past month alone and everything. So you want to keep dues, always keep them reasonable, of course. But that's hard to do sometimes. If the economy is changing, the environment is changing, demand is changing, costs are probably going to go up in some way, shape, or form. I think we all experience that with our toys out here, boats and UTVs and whatnot that we use with all the amenities. In terms of keeping it in check so that any increase is reasonable, if we do have to increase dues, I think you have to look at the cost of what we're doing, do a cost analysis for what we're doing, and is there a value in what we're doing? And what return on that dollar that we're spending are we going to get for it? If we cut corners, and I think the pickleball court is probably a good example of that. If you cut corners on things that you have to do, for instance, on capital projects, and you try to buy it on the cheap, the old saying, you know, buy cheap, buy it twice, right? If you cut corners and comes to the point that someday you have to do an entire replacement of some item or some amenity, it's going to cost us a lot more than that. So doing a good cost analysis, weighing the benefit versus the value of that cost of doing it, we should consider that. And if we have to, we raise the dues or we raise the fee in order to help cover that cost of that. To say that we're never going to increase dues is probably not realistic. I think we have a lot of value for our dues for what we pay out here. There's a lot of value in that.
20 seconds, Mark.
Thank you, Barb. And I think it's going to take a lot of brainstorming amongst the board and the managers at the lake in order to determine what we can do to reduce or maintain the current level of cost that we have. Thank you, Barb.
Thank you, Mark. Laura, your turn.
George kind of I thought he was reading my mind there. As far as being frugal, I've always thought of myself as frugal my whole life. And, you know, I will continue to do so. I think we should get the most for our money. We should watch what we spend and where we spend it and get the best value for our money. You know, we're not a cash cow. We're a nonprofit association. So, you know, we can't just spend it and be taken advantage. I think we need to always look at what we're doing and what we're spending on and making sure we're getting the most money for our value, get the most value for our money. And then, well, I know we got salaries. I know it's a big, we have a big budget for that. I don't know how much can be done with that, but you know, if there's duplicated jobs and things like that, and all that can be looked at. I'm sure it's been looked at before, but you know, we just need to continue to reevaluate what our spending is and where the money is going.
Thank you, Laura. Bill?
Well, this is gonna be an ongoing issue, but it's gonna take a good team effort to solve this issue and keep our amenity fees in line. Starts out with good budgeting, good plan put in place. But also take a look at how can we increase the income coming in, not from dues increases, but how do we get more from our amenities? Say, for instance, the pro shop, the marina, the cove. How can we generate more income from those things? The campground, you know, can we get more people into the campground with additional campsites, which brings more people into the lake spending money in our amenities? You know, I don't think we can continue to cut and end up ahead. We got to find new sources of income and through unique ways to generate that, not just raising amenity fees. But I think there's a lot of opportunity here for that, and we just got to explore it and unlock those opportunities.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, question number 3. Mark, it's your turn to go first on this one. What are your thoughts on controlling the zebra mussel problem in our lake?
I'm not sure I want to thank you for that question, Mike. The zebra mussels, as everybody, most likely everybody knows, and it's a big problem now. And what to do about it is just a bigger problem. There are those that want to, and I'm not saying I'm against it, but complete eradication of the zebra mussels is possible if you saw Dr. Hammond's video not too long ago. You know, we are not really a closed lake because we do allow our people to go out there. I mean, not that we allow, they do, they go to other bodies of water and whatnot. So whatever you're going to do, you have to consider the fact that they could be reintroduced to the lake at some point again, and we would be spending a lot of money to eradicate them again. So my thoughts on it are we need a mitigation and control solution to it. And whatever that entails needs a lot of discussion. I've read a lot about the zebra mussels, other associations, and how they've learned to live with them. In some cases, they've been eradicated, but they're smaller bodies of water. They're different bodies of water. They have it's just a different makeup how those bodies of water are used and whatnot. I think the board has to develop a plan that works for Apple Canyon Lake and works for the property owners at the lake here. And that might be eradication, but it might be control and mitigation at that point. There are other solutions out there. There are other things we can do. If the association allows us to do that, I passed on some information to Sean not too long ago about some other things that are out there that the property owners could use for personal docks and whatnot. We do have to do something.
20 seconds, Mark.
Thank you, Barb. We do have to do something, but exactly what that is, I think it takes a lot of maybe what Bill said, teamwork and cooperation to determine what we need to do on the zebra mussel issue. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mark. Laura?
Well, the zebra mussels are here, and I think this totally needs to be addressed. Though we might not eradicate them, I think we need to do our best to control them. And if we can eradicate them, you know, so be it. First, we have to start with the monitoring to know exactly how bad it is in certain areas, key areas. And then I'm all for spot treating, at least starting off with spot treating, possibly with the Earth Tech. It's a copper-based treatment. And if we're okay with treating weeds or the algae with copper, that's actually a higher dose than we need for the zebra mussels. So, you know, this is important with the lake. I mean, your kids are going to be swimming, they're going to be on the beach, you know, they want to go on the jumping rock, on the raft. People I've seen had them up on their piers already, and it's only going to get worse if we don't do something this year.
Thank you, Laura. Bill, to you.
It's an important problem. It affects how people can enjoy the lake, can also affect some of our infrastructure and people's personal property. First step is to figure out the extent of the problem. Many of us, you go over to where they pulled the boat lifts off and you can look at boat lifts over there. They've got a lot of zebra mussels on them. Don't know where they came from, but they're there. So first thing is I would think would be to monitor it. Then develop a control plan. But at the same time, we need to educate the people that are bringing boats in and out in some sort of a control measure so that the zebra mussels aren't getting reintroduced into the lake. After we get everybody educated and following a program that they don't bring some of that stuff and it's not getting transported on boats and stuff, then we can go after eradication, I think. But until we get those control methods in place, I don't believe that, we can totally eradicate it. We can control it and we can probably keep it where people can enjoy the lake at a high level, but we have to do our part too in keeping stuff from coming into the lake and taking it other places also. So.
Thank you, Bill. George.
I attended that seminar that the Spirit Tech put on, and the first question I had was, are they coming in from our tributaries? Because nobody had an answer for that question of mine. If they're coming in out of the Hells Branch at the north end and the different tributaries that we have coming in at the end of each one of these bays, we got a problem. I believe in testing and monitoring to see where they're coming from is our #1 priority. And then once we figure out how they're coming in here, then we can start possibly spot trading. If they're coming into these tributaries, then we can start treating them at the source and not try to just treat them the whole lake. That's almost impossible with the size of this lake. And other lakes have said that they've become completely free of zebra mussels. I'm from Missouri. You gotta show me. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Okay, moving on to question number 4. Laura, your turn to go first. What, if any, new initiatives or amenities will you bring to the board for consideration or action?
New amenities? I've thought of that from time to time, and I mean, really right now, I don't think is a good time to try and introduce anything new. As far as an amenity, I think there's projects or activities, events that maybe that we can introduce for people to enjoy, but really, I don't know until we get the lake under control and budget with the lake, I mean, we still have to save up and we have to build capital and things like that to try and introduce something new. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Laura. Bill, to you.
Well, if it were me, no, get the mic. I'm sorry, I haven't been doing it. If it were me, I would survey the property owners and see what they're really interested in. Because, I could come up with an idea and if it's not utilized, it's not a very good addition. So I would see what everybody's interested in and then take a look at those things. And if it falls within our budgets and stuff and it's something that we can do up front, maybe we can do it. Otherwise, it's gonna have to get into a capital plan and be planned out and then we can implement it.
All right, thank you, Bill. George,
I don't think we need to add any more amenities to this lake. I think we, with maintaining what we have and improving them and maintaining them, I think we'll be in great shape because the bulk of the people that are up here are after the lake. And we have a beautiful trail system that the truck committee's worked on for years on end. And the golf course is in good shape. Years back, we put a new irrigation system in there, so the golf course is really top shelf today. And all we have to do is maintain what we have. Thank you.
thank you, George. Mark,
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, tough question. I somewhat agree with the other candidates regarding not changing things till we get the current amenities in the good shape and whatnot. But in terms of long-term planning, I think there are ideas out there for newer amenities or new types of amenities who do have a changing demographics. You know, Apple Canyon Lake isn't it isn't what it used to be in terms of the age group and the people that are coming here now, the people that are buying homes. It's not a retirement community, as it's been said. It's basically it's a recreation community. So to change that, they added amenities. Of course, that's budgetary increases are involved with that. The cost of building those amenities is involved in that. So that could mean dues increase and stuff. I think if you're going to do that, you poll the property owners, as Bill said there, to see what they're looking at, what they're interested in. And maybe we could put out a suggestion box at the association building here for property owners only on the current amenities, what you like, what you don't like about them, and what would you like in terms of that. I know there's been some thoughts about what to do with the lower 80 there. I think those are great ideas, what they think they're planning for down there. But in terms of new amenities, which could mean new costs for us, I think we should poll the property owners to find out what they're thinking about what we have and where we should go in the future with the amenities that we have at Apple Canyon Lake, or what we want to add to it. That's all.
thank you, Mark. So that completes 4 of our 8 questions. So that means with question number 5, Bill, we're going to come back and start with you. We currently get about 25% voter turnout for board elections. What ideas do you have to increase voter turnout for future board elections?
Well, I think there's a lot of means nowadays with technology to help increase the turnout. You know, we can change to voting electronically. Help that. I think getting the word out through more Facebook, Twitter, our web page, things like that. And I know older people like to have paper in front of their hands. You know, get more mailings maybe. Things like that. I mean,
This paper in front of my hands.
yeah, and try to improve the process to make it easier for people to participate in. I know with our declarations and our bylaws, we have troubles getting people to vote, and you know, part of it might be that people are intimidated by the content of the material they're trying to read, and can we make it easier for people to understand so they feel a little more comfortable on what they're voting for and can make better decisions. I think there's things that we can do through technology.
Right. Thank you, Bill. George, to you.
Number 1 is we have to get the owners to realize that this is their association. We're all in the same boat here. And by electing the proper people to get the job done means that you have to vote. I hear a lot of grumbling out there with the people, with the homeowners up here, that nothing ever gets done. Well, we're out here, we got to get something done. And with the backing of our membership here and the comments that our membership can give to the board members, we can accomplish anything up here. And getting more people involved in voting for board members and running for board members. We're filling 3 positions today, and there's only 4 of us running. So that means something's lacking up here. We've got to get more people involved in this association. Thank you.
George, Mark,
It's a difficult question. As Mike, George, and Bill both said, it's hard to get the word out there to people. I think you have to make the voting more accessible and make it easier for people to vote, whether that's whatever technological means we have to do that, if we're able to do that, we should do that. To attract more candidates, again, that's probably something difficult. A lot of our folks, our property owners, are part-timers, they're weekenders, and this is where they come to reset at the end of a busy week in their day-to-day lives and their jobs and whatnot. So maybe it might just be up to the folks that have the time to do this and maybe target them and create a lot more awareness. I think you have to create the awareness about the board and then somehow create the desire to be a board member. You know, it's an old ACTAR principle. If you understand change management, you know, creating awareness and desire often creates opportunity for people to want to do something and take on these challenges for it. So voting is important to get as many people to vote as possible. So awareness and desire to do that, making it easier for them. And as board members, I think our board members could go out and just canvass the folks when they see them and meet them and ask them, you know, would you be interested in being a board member? And this is what we could do to help you understand what the responsibilities are. So I think using ideas that create awareness and by doing that, create the desire to vote and maybe be a board member someday or consider being a board member would help us.
Mark, Laura.
I think having candidates available or that can be seen by people as people that care and have an interest and want to respond to their wants and needs and what they care about and want to listen to them. I think that helps show an interest and you know, they might think their vote is worth casting, and you know, it's instead of just throwing their arms up in the air that well, my vote doesn't matter. And social media now, I know not everybody is on social media, but there's probably a lot more that are on now that you know, if they do follow us on social media and the new website, you know, you can have the banners running, you know, make it easier to navigate the website. You know, and I know it's still a growing process with the website, and I think the more that it improves and people can see how easy it is, you know, here, oh, just click here. You don't have to hunt for things that you want to find. You know, the banners that are on there now are good. I think, you know, it kind of catches your eye. And then the newspaper, but that's always been around, and people, I think it's well advertised in there, the voting process, and I think a lot of people do read the paper, maybe not front to back, but the easier it is to read and understand and make things catchy, you know, not where you have to read an in-depth article to figure things out. The easier we can make it for people to vote and to learn about whether it's candidates or other issues, I think the more people will respond.
Thank you, Laura. Moving on, question number 6. George, your turn to start on this one. The Strategic Long Range Planning Commission is working on the 2023 plan on a page. What suggestions would you have for consideration?
Well, I believe, and I'll go back to the last question I answered, we should work on getting everything done that has to be done, like the spillway project and the zebra mussel project and the flood mitigation. The long range planning is great. It's a wish list, but I believe we should work on the projects that we have to get done to protect our lake. because our lake is #1 active in my book. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Mark?
Yeah, Mike, could you read the question again?
Sure. The Strategic Long Range Planning Commission is working on the 2023 plan on a page. What suggestions would you have for consideration?
So for long range planning strategically, which is not tactically, obviously, but I think I would want to see clubhouse, this building on there for areas of improvement that it may need. We kind of just look at our employees or the association's employees, and some people want to say just live with it, but that's really not a fair way to look at it. So if this place needs improvement, that should be part of our long range planning. The Cove, it's open essentially maybe 3.5 months out of the year. It's a major investment. If you've been around long enough, you know what it costs to build that restaurant. I feel that it should be open longer than that. So maybe the Cove should be looked at in terms of how we can come up with ideas so that it's more productive and more beneficial to the property owners. The Pro Shop does a really good job. The Pro Shop sometimes is just overly saturated, and everybody knows the labor market is really tight. I think the folks, Terry, her staff does a fantastic job of accommodating the property owners. So maybe there's something long-term for improving the golf course. The lower 80 I mentioned before should be part of the long-range planning. The farmland that we bought has been kind of a contentious issue with a lot of folks, but what is our long-range goal for that? As far as investment purposes, that's a changing environment right now with interest rates and bond market and whatnot. So was it a good idea then? Maybe was it a good idea to keep it that way? I don't know. Why isn't that on the long range strategic planning thing? What are we going to do with that? The golf course, as George said, it's in great shape, but could it be in better shape? Is there something we can do with the golf course to attract more players, which would increase revenue for the association also?
20 seconds.
Thank you, Barb. I think those are things that I would want to discuss in terms of the long-range strategic planning for the lake. That's all I have. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mark. Laura, to you.
I agree as far as the buildings, seeing what we can do to improve and get our money's worth out of our dollars, what kind of improvements we can do. I know the office space has been an issue, and that's come up. We have to try and get creative to hopefully come up with some solutions. The camp project, the clubhouse, has been voted down, and so I know that it'll come up again, that we need to address office space and what we can do to help improve that. And then as far as the Pro Shop as well, that place is hopping, and so suggestions have come up about having the Cove open in the winter time. That's something I think that should be looked at as well. Anything we can do to improve what we have, I think is important.
Thank you, Laura. Bill?
I'd have to echo some of the things that Mark said as far as looking at their amenities. How can we improve them? Cove, Pro Shop. But I'd also like to add in the campground. We got 133 people that are on the campground waiting list. And that's stuff that people, it's pretty revenue neutral as far as what it costs for them to camp there and stuff. But it does bring opportunity for people to come in here, spend money, generate income, and utilize some of the amenities that we have. There are some other things as far as watershed. We've got to look at that. And that's is really important to maintain the health of our lake. We've got silt washing in still because we've got to dredge it, and we've got to continually look at ways to improve our watershed. So there are going to be projects that we're going to have to do in some of the places where lakes come or the water runs into the lake, and we need to look at it.
Thank you, Bill. All right, question number 7. Mark, you'll be first on this. The fun activities at ACL are largely run by volunteers. What ideas do you have to increase volunteerism to make these events happen?
Well, good question. The key word there is the volunteerism, and again, folks are busy, but if we put out there the things that are fun to do out here, the garden club and some of the other clubs that we have, promoting them, whether it be in the Apple Corps or on the Facebook page, but promoting what we have. The people that do participate now, maybe they could add something to that, maybe have an article and get a fact and opinion page going or something where they could say how it benefited them, what they thought of it, ideas for improving it. But I think you have to create awareness about those activities, and the people that are currently participating in those activities, get them to promote them and maybe speak for them on the association's behalf in the Apple Corps, during the Appleseed maybe, and also on the Facebook page. Promoting it, it's like in the old days when Bradiger promoted Apple Canyon Lake with the TV commercials. You know, the more you see it, the more you might explore it, and once you explore it, you might enjoy it, and that will increase the activity for it. So those are some ideas that maybe could be presented to the board, and the board could bring to the property owners in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Laura?
I think networking, sending out people that are already volunteering, you know, they kind of have an idea of who might be other potential candidates, certainly new owners, property owners. And I think if you get somebody that shows maybe even a little interest, you know, instead of just saying, you know, here's a volunteer sign up list, you know, actually ask them. I think when you're kind of put on the spot, I know that's happened with me, you know, sometimes you know, oh, you know, maybe I'd like to do that, but, you know, if somebody actually comes up to you and asks you about it, and talks to you about it, you know, kind of talks you into it, and, you know, I think we need to get more people to actually talk to people, one-on-one, asking them to, you know, see what they're interested in, and, you know, actually ask them to volunteer to do things, rather than just waiting for people to come up to you. You know, we kind of have to go out and search for people. And the new people that are new here too, you know, they might not even know what's available. So certainly, you know, whether it's signs or emails, you know, if we've got the weekly update, that's great. You know, when there is a specific need for something, you know, a person could be asking for volunteers for that, and she's creative. You know, I think she could pique their interest and get somebody to volunteer.
All right, thank you, Laura. Bill, to you.
Well, we need to encourage people, as, you know, potential member of the board of directors. On the board, we need to encourage people to volunteer, but the other part of that is I had volunteered to be on an ad hoc committee, and I didn't know what the process was to get on that committee, so I wasn't included in that committee. Well, then later on, I found out, okay, we've got an application and stuff like that. And I don't know if everybody knows what that process is. And I think more information out there as to what the process is to get people to volunteer could help. Since then, I know what the process is, so now it's easier for me to volunteer. I've encouraged my wife to volunteer, she didn't volunteer. But just more encouragement, get out there where we need volunteers, make it more known, make it more inviting for people to come to volunteer, and all that will help.
Okay, thank you, Bill. George?
The word volunteer starts with the homeowners and the lot owners up here. And starting with volunteering, it's showing up for these board meetings, because the board is running this association. And without your input, at the board meetings. We don't know, as a board member, we won't know where to go. Volunteering, once we get people excited about coming to these board meetings and making their comments heard, we can get people to sign up for different commissions here. I was on the maintenance commission years back, and it was a joy to work on a new irrigation system that we put in at the golf course. I'm on the trail commission for probably the last 15, 20 years, and we've turned the trails around completely. They're in perfect shape, and they're gonna get better. But the commissions are a good place to start with. And once people get interested in the association and how it works, then people will automatically respond to these different activities. Because it's a fun thing to have these concerts at Nixon Beach. It's nice to go there and sit, talk with your neighbors and friends, make new friends, and it's a joy. Like with the commission that worked on
20
the
seconds, 20 seconds.
on the children's garden here, it turned out phenomenal. And I want to applaud all of those members of that commission. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Okay, question number 8, which is the last of the first 8 questions we have. Laura, your turn to go first. What final thoughts do you have on any relevant topic that you would like the property owners to know before the conclusion of this meeting?
Can you say that just one more time?
Sure. What final thoughts do you have on any relevant topic that you would like the property owners to know about before the conclusion of this meeting?
I think our board is here for property owners. I think we need to listen to property owners through whatever means, whether it's a paper, one-on-one people. I think we need to be approachable too, so that people can approach you and talk to you and voice their concerns. I know social media sometimes can get a little hectic, but there may be some truth to some of the things that you hear and read. And I think we need to be able to listen to everybody and respond to their needs, whether we agree or not with what they have to say. We have to be able to listen to everyone by whatever means that they can relate to us and talk to us. I think we need to be out there and visible and know that they can approach us.
Thank you, Laura. Bill?
The board transparency and communication is important. But we all have to work together as a team to make improvements to the lake community. And we've got to solicit ideas and use all those ideas, because not one person's going to have an answer to anything. It takes a group of people, and a lot of times just one comment will spur on conversation that comes to a solution. The board's made good steps with video recording meetings that are now available to everybody, so that if somebody isn't here at the meeting, at least they got the opportunity to see the meeting and watch that. So that'll help in the future. But I think there's other means that we can do it. Another issue is we've got to get the declarations and the bylaws taken care of. And somehow we've got to get it so that it's not necessarily easy to pass, but it can't drag out for 2, 3, 4 years before it gets passed. So, and I don't know what the answer is to that, but we've got to work on it. We've got to find a way to get these things taken care of so that we've got good governing documents in place and documents that everybody can understand and follow.
Thank you, Bill. George?
Well, it all starts and it goes back to the topics we talked about prior to this. We have to get involved in our association. We, as homeowners here, have an investment in this place, and we have to give it our best so we can make forward progress. And we're only going to do that if we can get together, put our heads together, and get stuff done. And that's by joining commissions and becoming a part of this association. And that's actually the description of an association. It's a group of people working together to get a job done. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Mark?
Yes, could you read that question again?
Sure. What final thoughts do you have on any relevant topic that you would like the property owners to know before the conclusion of this meeting?
Of course, what Laura, Bill, and George said are all relevant. I think what I would add to that is, I think everybody is aware now that Sean Nordley, our general manager, is leaving sometime this month. I think it's a very relevant topic. I'd like to thank him for what he's done for the lake. While he's been the general manager here, I think he's pushed a lot of things forward, and this association is going in a very positive direction, thanks to Sean. So I think the general manager search is an extremely relevant topic at this time. There's been a lot of talk about hiring a property management company. I'm not sure if anybody understands the cost of doing that. Just simply Google search it. You'll find anywhere from $10 to $20 per unit per month. You could be talking $300,000 to $600,000 a year for doing something like that. And Sean, I would say, in the time that I've known him, and I've gotten to know him better over the past year, he puts this association in his hands. He takes it to heart and does a really, in my view, a really good job of taking care of what has to be taken care of at Everett. So I think the general manager search is a relevant topic. People should become aware of it and pass your ideas and thoughts about what you think we should go with it, where we should go with it. That's all. I just like to make sure people are aware of we're losing our general manager and how are we going to replace him and how do we want to replace him. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. So that concludes the 8 questions that the nominating committee created on behalf of all the property owners. Now it's time in the meeting where we have a few questions that come directly from property owners. Okay? So before we get to that, we're going to take a short break. Thank you, candidates, for your answers so far. Great job, all of you. Let's take a 5-minute break and be right back here.
I know I got it. We got it today from the agenda. Okay, thanks. Appreciate it. How much to talk out with it? Email, basically, or president. People that are.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. I'll send an email if I still pressure.
All right, welcome back, everyone. As we mentioned before, those 8 questions came from the nominating commission on behalf of the property owners. Now it's time in the meeting when we have some questions that come directly from property owners. We have 4 questions, which works out perfectly because we have 4 candidates. So Bill, we'll start with you on these questions. But property owners, members of the audience and people who are on Zoom, there have been a couple of questions that have had the same common theme to them. So we've combined those questions in the interest of efficiency and time. Okay? So if you don't hear your exact question that you've asked, it's because we've grouped it together with another question. All right. So question number 1, and Bill, we're going to start with you. Laura will finish with you. This concerns the camp project. Now that, hold on. There's been some handwriting on some of these questions here to combine. All right, this is much better. I have to have the paper in front of me. Now that lake priorities have changed after spending $240,000 on new clubhouse plans that now sit on a shelf, what would be your idea on taking care of this aging and outdated clubhouse? And would you consider resurrecting those plans in the future? Bill, to you.
Well, first off, I would look at this building and see what it needs to repair. There's many buildings that are 50 years old and they're still very usable. As far as the camp project, for me, it would have to be something that a majority of the property owners want. Because it's something that we would have to take very seriously. I don't know how we could do something like that and not raise amenities. And that's going to be something that's going to be hard to swallow for people. I don't, and I really question how much usage we really get out of some of that. When you're talking about a venue for weddings, meetings, family things and stuff, that's not our business. And how many times do we really are going to utilize that? Maybe each of us, maybe once in our lifetime, I don't know. And it's a long ways away from accommodations and things like that. I don't know how that works. So, just my thoughts.
Thank you, Bill. George, to you.
Well, again, it goes back to a matter of what it costs us to remodel this building, what it costs us to build a new building, and the utilization we're going to get out of it. I believe we should spend the bulk of our money maintaining the amenities we have. Number 1, the lake. Number 2, anything else that needs to be repaired. And I mean, I can see possibly putting a better pitch roof on this building, new windows, updating the HVAC systems on it, but I think we wasted our money with this camp project. I don't think we need a pavilion to have concerts. The concerts that we have at Nixon Beach are good. We get together and we meet our neighbors and friends and enjoy the music, have a couple beers at a time. The same thing with the fireworks on the lake. They're beautiful to sit out with 100 or 200 boats and never counted them and enjoy the evening, the beautiful breeze on the lake and the fireworks. I don't think we need beautiful real estate up here. And I'm sorry, that's my views. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Mark,
Mike, can you read the question again, please?
you gonna make me do this?
Yes, sir.
Now that lake priorities have changed after spending $240,000 on new clubhouse plans that now sit on a shelf, what would be your idea on taking care of this aging and outdated clubhouse? And would you consider resurrecting those plans in the future?
So my idea on the clubhouse is, yeah, it obviously needs updating. I don't know if it meets current building codes or not, but I think if you paid good money and a lot of money for plans, I would look at those plans, dissect those plans, and if there's bits and pieces of it you can use without having to pay for new plans or new designs, why not parse out that plan and see what you could use? Maybe the footprint for it wouldn't be exactly be the same, but the mechanicals that were planned for it could be incorporated into this building somehow. I mean, the clubhouse area master plan is just not the association building. It encompasses a lot of area around the clubhouse here itself. So I would be in favor of seeing if there's anything in there we could use and pull out of it rather than have to go through that process again and pay an architectural firm to draw up new plans and whatnot. I believe if I recall, the Memorial Pavilion was in there. It was a great looking facility for what it was intended to be and everything. So if we spent money for that and there's still money in the budget for that, why not proceed with that? People would gather at it. I think if it's there and you promote it, like we talked about earlier, promote those things and it will draw the people and the property owners out there to be used. And just jumping back to this building, if you want to attract and retain good employees, which can help keep your labor costs down, because training people to do jobs costs money, a nice place to come to work every day would be something that would attract and retain good people, good employees. So I think you have to look at that and not just discard it. If there's a part of that plan that we could use, it makes, you know, good financial sense to pull it apart, pick it apart and use it. And that would be my idea on that. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mark. Laura,
Well, again, we need to spend our money wisely. I think if we needed to increase space, I think an addition to this building would make more sense. Look at Galena. How old are those buildings? You know, they didn't just toss them away because they were, you know, so many years old. I think we can, if something's structurally sound, and even those buildings weren't structurally sound. Granted, they had beautiful architecture, you know, that, you know, anybody can appreciate. But I think we need to spend our money wisely and either put an addition on or somehow utilize unused spaces in here and make our money go further. We had a few people here know one of our neighbors who recently passed away. He built his own home here, and he'd always come up with things. And one thing that he suggested, and I you know, if the time came to it, you know, it might be worth pursuing. He thought maybe we could purchase a couple of the condos and turn those into office spaces, you know, adjoining condos, and you know, save a lot of money doing that rather than building new and starting from scratch. I think all avenues need to be looked at and explored, and you know, we just need to work with what we have and not push people away, drive people away by raising our dues and fees astronomically. You know, there's always going to be cost of living, and people understand that, but I don't think we should push people out of here. I think we want to attract people and keep the people that we have, the good people that we have.
okay, thank you, Laura. Question number 2, the second question directly from property. George, it's your turn to start. As a new board member, you will be tasked with a very important assignment, hiring a new general manager for the community. What experience, education, and temperament will you be looking for?
Well, that's a hard question to answer. We've got to get somebody like Sean that's got the drive and the initiative to keep us moving forward. I've been up here since '96, and this is one of the first individuals that I've seen to have that kind of drive and initiative to guide us in the proper direction. And I want to thank him for that. But like I said, we have to find somebody that has the ability to manage this place with the board and to put us in, get us going in the right direction or keep us going in the right direction. And that entails getting everybody involved in our association, not just select 6 or 8 people. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Mark?
Well, yeah, that's a difficult question. As a new board member, if you were elected, I think you'd be looking for a general manager that has the knowledge, possesses the knowledge about property management, lake management, homeowners association responsibilities, what it entails to be a homeowners association. If I'm not mistaken, Illinois under SECA requires licensing for the general manager or property manager of a homeowners association. So of course you'd be looking at that experience, how much experience. There's a lot to be said for having no experience, because every day is a learning curve for you. Also, the individual, I would think, would want to be compassionate about what they do, or have passion for what they're doing, be compassionate when they deal with the property owners. And also be respectful of the property owners, because all of that's a two-way street. We need to respect each other as much as the general manager that we would select would need to respect us as property owners and our opinions. They need to be able to work collaboratively with the board and understand that there's no one-way streets around Apple Canyon Lake. Everything is a two-way street, or at least a turnaround real quick to get out of there, right? So I think those are some of the traits. I think it's going to be difficult. I was a hiring manager with the government in my position, and it's really difficult. You could be faced with a lot of qualified or a few qualified people, and how do you make the right decision for that position? I think it's a difficult task that the board is going to be confronted with.
20 seconds.
Thank you, Barb. I think you need to look at and decide on what traits you are looking for, and the few that I mentioned, I think would help in that search. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Laura?
I just talked with somebody the other day about that, and I was trying to formulate what, other than having a thick skin, what other qualities would a general manager need? And I think experience is probably the biggest one. I don't think we want somebody to be learning the ropes when they come here. You know, there's gonna be enough to learn just to learn our property, our association itself, but somebody that's managed a similar, hopefully there is somebody out there that's and wants to come here, has managed a similar either size of association and a lake as well. There's a lot of amenities here that need to be taken care of, and the more experience that somebody has had, successful experience, I think the better. I don't think we need a rookie at this point. They need to learn the ropes, have learned the ropes already before they come here. And of course, it has to be somebody that can work with the board, that can work with people, manage the, you know, oversee. There's so much to do here. I'm sure it can be overwhelming at times, and I think that person has to be able to learn and listen to experts. You know, there's going to be expert opinions, studies that have to be done. They have to be able to have resources and connections
20 seconds.
and be able to connect with other businesses that we will be relying on, and be able to deal with them and have a good rapport. businesses and with property owners and the board, of course.
Thank you, Laura. Bill?
Well, experience is number one. That's probably one of the most important things in my book, but also a person that can work within a team and has the track record of being able to do that. Also, a person that can hold people accountable. Accountability is a very important part of having a successful team. And that person has to be able to give feedback, honest feedback. Not only back to the board, but to department managers, employees, etc. And they also have to be open-minded enough to accept ideas, criticism, and then be able to act on it and improve themselves. They also have, the general manager's job is not a 8-hour, 40-hour a week job. It entails a lot more of that. There's a lot of meetings that go on after hours and things like that. And they have to be very open to putting in the time to attend those things.
But thank you anyway, Bill. Okay, that concludes question number 2. So now we're starting at question number 3, and there's a total of 4. So Mark, this is your turn to start. I don't agree with a voted-in board member abstaining from decision-making. What is your stance on voting during meetings?
I think you should have all the knowledge available to you on the subject that you're voting on. Whatever information that was given to you, read the information, review the information. If you agree with it, then you should know which way to vote. If you don't agree with it, maybe you need more information, ask for more information. If you don't agree with that after receiving more information, then you should vote contrary to that. I don't think abstaining, if you're neutral, maybe if you're truly neutral, you could abstain from a vote. But I think the issues that are being voted on are important. And if you vote no or nay to an issue, it doesn't mean you're a bad board member or a bad individual, period. It just means you don't believe in that issue or subject that's being voted on. I think it's the responsibility of the board member, if you have the knowledge about the subject you're voting on, all the knowledge that you need to make a judgment, you vote in favor of it or you don't vote in favor of it, just make that decision. I think that is part of the responsibility of being a board member. Abstaining, what is that? To me, it's a lack of information about the subject, and maybe it's because you didn't do your own homework. As you said earlier, the GM position, it requires a lot of work, a lot of knowledge, and a lot of extra hour activity, after work activity to get that job done. So the same thing typically applies to the board of member or the board of director membership. So that's my opinion on that. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mark. Laura?
I actually had that question myself, and I plan to talk to some of the board members to ask why occasionally you'll see somebody abstaining. And I don't know that it's necessarily that they haven't researched it or know the topic. I would hope not, and I would hope that I would always have things researched as much as possible. We get the board pack, you get the board packets a week ahead of time, and I know it's important to read over those packets and ask questions ahead of time before, if you have questions about the subject. So, I don't know why people do abstain. I don't quite understand. I kind of get a feel of it, but I do want to ask some of the board members, that I've heard abstain and why they do that. I think it's important to use that judiciously if you do. And I think that each vote is important. to get it out there, and if you don't, that's what the discussion is for. To try and convince or help people on your fellow board members understand the topic. And I would hope, I would hope I wouldn't be abstaining too much. I think each topic deserves a vote as much as possible.
Thank you, Laura. Bill?
Well, abstaining, if there's a conflict of interest that somebody has, then they should abstain. They don't have any business voting on something like that. If it's a lack of preparation, then that's a problem. We have to put in enough time to get the pertinent information that we need to make an informed decision. I would think that abstaining to something because you don't have enough pertinent information would be something that would occur very rarely. I think a lot of it's just a matter of preparation. Some of it is just people have a conflict of interest and it's not appropriate for them to vote.
Thank you, Bill. George?
I want to say that to abstain is not really proper. I think you have to do the research and make up your mind. If you need some input from the association membership, you should look forward to that and contact people, see what they say. But to abstain takes you out of your job. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Okay, fourth and final question that comes directly from property owners. Laura, this one will come to you. We are a close-knit community and we should be striving to work together towards positive, productive goals. What is your reaction to the hurtful social media messages by members of ACL aimed at our own community? Will you work to discourage this kind of uncivilized behavior? What will you do to encourage decorum, respect for one another, and a more neighborly communication among ACL residents?
I think that's a good question, a good topic. And I think some of the social pages are moderated, and I think any people need to be able. I understand people want to express their frustrations, but when it comes to name calling and profanity, I think people they're doing more harm than good. They're not. Those types of things can be said amongst themselves, to their friends or to themselves, their family members, if they had to do that to get that off their chest. But to put it in print and put it out there, it lasts, and it has more. It's more divisive than productive. We need to be able to come together, and we're all here to enjoy the beauty here. And I know sometime on a couple of some of the pages, and when I've seen that, it's hard well, certainly you don't condone it, but it's hard to confront. And maybe I need to do a little more. I've always tried to explain things, trying to be neutral, and always explaining both sides, and trying to temper things. And sometimes it's hard.
10 seconds. 10 seconds.
And I would hope I can try and neutralize more things and encourage. Maybe you can't solve their problem, but at least try to encourage. Get the ball rolling in the other direction.
Thank you, Laura. Bill, to you.
Well, some of the comments and some of the things that have been happening on social media has spurred me to decide to get involved. I don't agree with a lot of the way things have come out on social media. Some of the comments actually have been very derogatory, and I don't like when people throw problems out there, but they don't offer any solutions. You can choose to be part of the problem, or you can choose to be part of the solution. And yeah, there's problems to work on, and we need to get people's input as far as, what they think those problems are. But we also have to try to get their solutions and come up with solutions so that we fix those things. And throwing problems out there just to throw a bone at somebody's feet and now go fix it, it's not helping. We need people to throw solutions out there so that we can move forward.
Thank you, Bill. George?
I don't want to show my age, but I don't believe in social media. If you have a problem, come to the commission that might be able to help your problem. Come to the board meeting, stand up here in front of the microphone and talk it out. Sorry, I don't believe it. I look at the social media posts from ACL, both of them, and I get ideas, but I don't like to post because we're here, we're an association. If everything can run perfectly, this will be like a well-oiled clock. And I'm here to tell you, with the participation of our owners and the membership here, we can excel. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Mark?
Mike, can you read that question again, please?
Yes. We are a close-knit community, and we should be striving to work together toward positive, productive goals. What is your reaction to the hurtful social media messages by members of ACL aimed at our own community? Will you work to discourage this kind of uncivilized behavior? What will you do to encourage decorum, respect for one another, and a more neighborly communication among ACL residents?
Can I abstain? Have to go there. Yeah, it's a shame that some of the social media degrades to that point where people are being just really chased away from participating in things. There's a lot of accusations, and I say accusations versus allegations without any kind of substantiation. I tend to avoid it. I usually get my news from the Wall Street Journal or like the New York Times, Chicago Sun-Times, not the National Enquirer. And that's kind of what I like in some of that too. I'm a facts person. We've talked about what I've done in my career. I like to know the facts about things. If you allege something, I'm going to ask you for more information regarding, the facts for that. Is it hearsay? Is it just something you thought, or is it really based on facts somewhere? And I think we can go a long way to discouraging those types of comments on social media if we ask those questions. A lot of things are they're just untested assumptions. In order to test them, ask the questions, ask honest questions about where did you get that information from? What's it based on? How do you know that? If I say I saw my neighbor bury his wife in the backyard, I can certainly make an accusation. I have hard evidence of seeing that. I can say that. But if I say I think he buried his wife in the backyard, that's just an allegation without being substantiated. So there's a huge difference between the two of them. I think what I would do is just keep asking, where is that information coming from? What are you basing that on? What proof do you have? What evidence do you have? I was at a board meeting and I think some serious allegations were thrown at the board, and I wondered, where did that information come from?
10 seconds.
Thank you, Barb. And what was it based on? And by asking those questions, I would hope that would discourage people from making those claims without having the evidence of that claim. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. our goal here this afternoon, people, was to give you property owners, voters, information about the perspective of these candidates. And with their good work this afternoon in sharing those perspectives, thank you very much. Thank you to the members of the audience. Thank you to the Zoomers, and thank you to all property owners. I think we've accomplished our goal of sharing some light on how these candidates perceive different topics. So thanks to everyone. Barb, do you have any thoughts on concluding this meeting?
I would say thank you, Mike, and let's adjourn.
Okay, I second that.